Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Sean Cole with my good buddy,
Darren Ganji.
and we're here today to take a look at the Volair Sim, and that is both the name of the sim and the name of the company. And the Volair Sim is a multi-use simulator, which means it works both for flight sims and racing simulations.
And you know what Volair stands for?
Something air.
Flight.
Oh, it means flight, huh?
Yeah, I believe in French, and it's spelled a little bit different, I believe, but it was originally made as a flight simulator. And it comes in at $549, and it comes with all the accessories included. So it's a complete rig with its seat, and in addition, a triple monitor stand, a shifter mount, a keyboard, and mouse tray. The rig comes pre-drilled for the common wheels and pedal sets, as well as the common flight sticks. Now, the T500 drilling was a little bit off.
Yeah, so we need to drill one hole for that.
And he's looking into fixing it, but yeah, that was an issue with the one that we got here.
And even then, it was still easy to just drill a hole and it worked. I mean, the plate was going to work with the T500 wheel. The rig comes in black only and is made of steel tubing. It utilizes a variety of different hardware, including these plastic threaded lockdowns for adjustment to the monitor stand and wheel deck heights. The seat is well padded and is covered in a nice black fabric, and it allows for reclining.
As we mentioned, it comes with a triple monitor stand and a single monitor stand that is capable of holding a 42-inch television, or LCD. The monitor stand is then adjustable up and down independently of the rig.
Focusing on the wheel deck, you will notice that it is an entire desktop instead of just a wheel plate. It is adjustable up and down via the sliders, and also has a little bit of front and back adjustment by where you mount it to the top. It can also be adjusted to different degrees of tilt via the mounting bracket.
The pedal plate is made of a pretty heavy-duty steel plate. It is hinged on the bottom and has 3 different positions of angle that it can be set to. The rig also comes with a shifter mount that is adjustable as well. You can raise and lower it, as well as move it front to back or in and out. It is also reversible for those that are looking for a left-hand shifter. Also comes with a throttle quadrant on that side that you could use as a shifter plate if you wanted.
Yeah, basically they flip around either way, so I mean whatever works best for you. Also attached to the shifter arm is a keyboard mouse holder. It also has some adjustment for its position and articulate so that you can put it at any angle that you like. The tray is covered in a mouse pad type material, make it grippy so your stuff doesn't fall off while racing.
So as we mentioned, this also doubles as a flight sim. Actually, it originated as a flight sim and has been converted to also do sim racing stuff. So needless to say, it has all of the areas to handle the flight sim stuff, the throttle quadrant and all that stuff.
The Volair Sim is built for drivers or pilots from 48 to 80 inches, so that's a pretty extreme variance, and up to 260 pounds. It does come with some extenders that you can put in, but funny enough, I use the extenders for my height. So that's probably something they could get rid of and just make them that length.
Make it extended.
Yeah.
So we mentioned the rig comes in at $549 and includes everything here. There is one additional accessory for a center-mounted flight stick, and that would be an additional $59. The rigs are available in all of North America, most of Europe, as well as Australia and Brazil.
The rig came shipped in one single box that weighed 128 pounds, but it was well packed inside and pretty easy to deal with.
Yeah, it came in good shape, so definitely handled the shipping. That's going to wrap up first half of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about the build, go over the pros and cons, put it on the REV scale right after this.
Inside Sim Racing is sponsored by Butt Kicker. Take your gaming to a new level of realism, immersion, and dynamics with Butt Kicker tactile transducers. Get 10% off of these packages by using coupon code ISR10 at thebuttkicker.com.
Welcome back to our review of the Volair racing rig or flight simulator. I'm Darren Ganji here with Sean Cole. And first of all, actually we're going to talk about the build, but before we do, let's talk about the similarities. between this and the GT Omega. So when this thing first showed up on the scene, it was shown in our forum and listed as the Volair Sim, and I'm like, that's the GT Omega. And so it has a lot of similar parts to the GT Omega, or similar design, and which makes me wonder if they use the same manufacturer in China,
right,
but then do alterations or variations of the same type of rig. Because the whole front section is GT Omega.
Right.
This whole section, GT Omega.
Yeah.
The original deck coming up with the posts,
right,
GT Omega, then the GT Omega had a little plate.
Yeah.
GT Omega also had he just added side braces to account for the wobble.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a similar rig.
A lot of similarities, but they are different. I mean, this one has a really nice seat. I like this one's seat a lot.
Seat is much better on the Volair. So let's go into pros, cons, and let's start with, before the pros and cons, the build.
The build on this one is really straightforward. It came with instructions that were both good and bad. The pictures were pretty decent, and it was going to get the job done. The problem I had was some of the inventorying of some of the screws. So it would tell you need 6 screws in this step, and then the next step it would say you need 4. Well, you'd used 2 of them in the previous step. So you kind of had to ignore their count on screws, but it was one of those things like all the screws kind of had to go where they belonged. So I ended up with no extra parts, went together very quickly, very easily, and it was kind of a fun build to do. I actually enjoyed myself putting this one together.
One of the other differences was the fasteners was different than the GT Omega too.
And I was skeptical of those at first, but they so far are holding up.
Very cool. So why don't we just go into pros and cons now? Sean did the majority of the driving in this rig, so it's really going to be more his take on it. I did run some laps in it and get a feel for it, so I definitely can give my take on it. And it is very similar to the GT Omega when it comes to the driving.
Absolutely.
The original GT Omega. So let's start with the pros. And first pro, comes with everything you need, beyond your wheel and pedals, obviously, and for flight or driving. So this is a really, I would say it's a little bit better rig for the flight side than it is the sim racing side, but it's really an all-in-one unit.
Absolutely.
Next up, comfortable seat, and it reclines. Actually, I like this seat a lot better than its counterpart that we were mentioning, the GT Omega. The GT Omega had that pleathery plastic feel.
Yeah.
This one's soft, has some good cushion to it, and it's reclinable.
And it's good for summer driving with the cloth.
For sure.
Yeah. Another pro is that this is truly compatible with all 3 brands. Now, we did have to drill a hole, but it was going to work with all 3 brands without any major modification and do it rather well. Next, I like all the extras that we mentioned that it comes with, including, I like that extra extended deck that the wheel's on, so you can put some extra stuff there, whether it's your mouse or speakers or anything.
Speaking of included accessories, another one of the pros is the triple monitor stand that's included, or single monitor stand, whichever you want to use it for. And it's got a very sturdy base that's easy to get in and out of.
Next is at $549, it's a great price. That's a lot of rig they're giving you and a very fair price they're asking for, but that does not include shipping. And the last pro, it's a good looking setup. I mean, take a look at it from afar. It looks racy, it looks like it's quality material.
Black always does good for racy.
Yeah.
That's gonna take us to the cons. And first one, we had to drill the hole for the Thrustmaster. Not a big deal, but we had to do it. Next thing, monitor stand. Actually, it's kind of two things with the monitor stand. One, it's too far away and you can't move them. And it's fine for flight sims, but for racing sims, we want them closer and we want adjustable. And the other thing for racing sims, and it was probably fine for flight sims, is that they're attached to the rig. So we get wobble on the monitors with the wheel deck. So in the flight sim, you're not gonna get that wobble because you don't have the force feedback or the saw cranking.
And the last con really comes down to wiggle as well, and that is the wheel deck. It's kind of extended out there, and it's a long way from home without a lot of support, so there is a little bit of wiggle. Not too much, but I wouldn't put anything loose on that wheel deck because you'd probably bounce it off of it.
The bigger, the heavier the wheel, the more the wobble too.
Absolutely.
Thrustmaster's going to wobble more than say a Logitech or like one of the lower end Fanatic wheels. But yeah, other than that, it's definitely a good solid combo rig. So that's going to take us to the REV scale.
All right.
Sean,
I'll give it the REV scale.
Rev it up.
Straight up, as a sim racer, I think it gets an 8.5, and that comes down to the price and everything you're getting, and that's even with a few of the
Give
cons.
it a half point?
8.5. Absolutely got to give it a half point.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a half a point on another way of thinking about it too. I think a lot of people out there aren't just racers, but they're also flight guys. And having a universal rig that can truly accommodate both easily too. It doesn't take a lot to switch back and forth. That's going to bump it all the way up to a 9.5 because there aren't a lot of rigs. I can't think of another rig.
For those guys in particular.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I would just say let's just give it the flight sim. Welcome to Inside Flight Simulators.
No.
I'll give it the racing sim score, and I'd say it's a solid 8. Price, good price, all the combination. You could probably even modify it to lessen the wobble. I know GT Omega makes some extra braces. I don't know if you can buy them from them, or maybe he'll come out with some adapters. But
I could brace this one, for sure.
So yeah, it's a good, solid racing rig, and especially for somebody entry level, $550. That's a good price.
Yeah.
And that gets you going.
Yeah. Based on what you said, I kind of want to move into my final thoughts here. And we talked about the universal rig. I'm going to take that one step further. But my racing rig currently has my best computer sitting over there. And it's the best computer I have sits there to do nothing but race. And that's awesome. But it also means all the time I'm doing everything else I do on a computer, I'm using a lesser computer. Well, this goes beyond just being a flight sim and a sim rig, but it's also a workstation with that swinging keyboard mouse holder. I could actually do some editing or browsing, and so
or gaming, first-person shooters.
Absolutely. So I mean, this really is a desktop rig. You know, not like a desktop like sit in a chair, but I mean, it gives you the same function. So I mean, it goes beyond in that universal function, and I think that's why I gave it that extra half point, because it meant that if I had one computer that I could do everything with, this rig is going to get me farther than any other I can think of.
You know, and somebody, I'll give my final thoughts. Somebody had mentioned in our last rig review, why don't you compare it to all the rigs that you've done? Guys, this is like rig number 30. So we could, yeah, sure, I'll compare it just really quickly to the ones that are closest. GT Omega and the Obutto Ozone. Both very similar. I mean, GT Omega is very, very similar, but the Obutto Ozone, a very similar rig. And I'd say offering about the same functionality. The Obutto may be a little more solid, I would say.
And it's a little bit nicer around the edges. I mean, it's kind of...
This or the Obutto?
The Obutto.
No, I like the finish of this better.
So maybe that's why we can't compare. I mean, really it comes down to...
Think about the finish of the Obutto Ozone, dude.
I like the way it's got the square off tubing, though.
Yeah, but it's got that rough, this at least had like a powder-coated finish.
True, true.
Which, well, I mean, you might like the...
And that gets back to my point.
Personal
30 different
preference.
rigs, and they all served certain types of drivers, certain types of users, certain types of tastes. So it'd be hard to really compare them for everybody.
And now as far as the height goes, we didn't really mention that much. I was able to sit just fine in it. For the Thrustmaster pedals, we had to take the bar off to recess back far enough. But comfortable enough that I could race for long periods of time, and I think you felt the same way, right?
Yeah, I was very comfortable driving this rig. It took me a little while to get it just right for me, but once I did, I was very cozy.
So I think that's about to wrap it up.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank Bart at Volair Sim for sending us this rig to check out. We really appreciate it, and obviously we really liked it. And if you're interested in checking one out yourself, go to VolairSim.com and tell them the guys at Inside Sim Racing sent you. So I think that's going to wrap it up. Anything else, Sean, before we go?
No, I'm glad we finally got to check it out because we had a few people asking for it.
Yeah, and for the flight and racing sim guys, talk about a perfect solution. This is a great solution for those. So that's going to do it for Sean Cole. I'm Darren Ganji. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. Come to our website, isrtv.com, if you want to discuss this review in our sim rig section. Post pictures of your sim rig. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and that's going to do it. We'll see you guys next time.